May I now invite Madam Waseqa Ayesha Khan, Member of Parliament of Bangladesh, to make her observations.
Distinguished moderator, distinguished panelists, delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon to you all. Shubho Apuranno. I'm delighted to attend the 5th Indian Ocean Conference hosted by the India Foundation in the UAE with the theme of ecology, economy and epidemic. I'm happy to be able to learn much in the today and yesterday, and I would like to share some ideas of Bangladesh's perspective and position in the combat against COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the climate emergency. And my deliberations will mostly focus on our government's response to the pandemic, as well as its impact on our economy. Bangladesh government steps were on the right direction and quite early, as we took precautionary measures urgently and unhesitantly, as alerted by the WHO. The first case was detected in Dhaka as early as March 8, 2020. Despite some prior national programs, the government of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina acted without delay and declared full lockdowns for several weeks, with the shutdown of all economic activities across the country. The Honorable Prime Minister formulated the National Preparedness and Response Plan to address the pending threat. And to control and combat the virus, the government approach included a 31-point directive for all agencies to play their due part to combat this threat. These measures resulted in a positive outcome. You're aware that the situation has remained well under control for the last 3 months, but now with the emergence of the new variant, we must act promptly and together. As regards the vaccination program, Bangladesh was one of the early starters in terms of rolling out the inoculation as early as 7th February in 2021. We have extensively utilized the information and telecommunication technology for implementation of the vaccination program through a software platform called Suraksha. As of 2nd December 2021, using this system, 62.73 million citizens, about 45.37% of the target population, have received first doses of the vaccines, while 37.26 million, 27% of the target population have been duly vaccinated. So we have reached the 100 million number. The pandemic situation in Bangladesh is improving, but we are watching very carefully about the new variant issue. And we are also working on the mutual recognition of our vaccine certificates. This unprecedented global pandemic hit Bangladesh severely both at the economic and health front. While the level of infections and death rates in Bangladesh may be called modest, the losses in the economic front were immense. However, due to the pragmatic measures of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the economic front has managed to turn around. Our economy, which was projected to grow at over 8% in last fiscal year, achieved a modest 4% growth rate in 2020 and 5.4% so far in 2021. An important sector worst hit by COVID is our 12 million people working in the Middle Eastern countries and Southeast Asia. Through diplomatic efforts, the government has been trying to ensure both health and economic safety of these migrant workers during the pandemic. The government, in coordination with other stakeholders, has been devising policies for reskilling and reintegration of many repatriated workers into our economy, as well as resending them to either their previous or new destinations in the post-COVID era. The leadership of HPM Sheikh Hasina has been instrumental in ensuring adequate measures, the food security and economic stability in the country during the crisis. 28 stimulus packages, 4.9% of our total GDP, which is comes to about more than $16 billion, are being implemented for ensuring well-being of the people and business communities. The social safety net programs have been extended to a wider range so that poor and destitute people's distress can be minimized. We have also provided cash incentives to millions of helpless people to meet their immediate requirements during the pandemic. Our export industry was hard hit by the pandemic. It was initially faced with a major threat of loss of much money following the cancellation or suspension of orders by the buyers. You are aware that Bangladesh's ready-made garment sector is intertwined with the resumption of economic activities in Europe and the US. It is a pleasure to note that with the opening of the normal activities in those countries, our R&G sector is gradually regaining its strength. Due to the pandemic, investment flow in Bangladesh was also negatively impacted, as was the case with the world around. There was a fall, according to a report by UNCTAD of 2020, there was a fall of 42% in the global FDI to an estimated $859 billion in 2020 from $1.5 trillion in 2019. That is a huge number, and I'm sure impacts the nations across this region. Faced with such hurdles, Bangladesh government had to focus on increasing both local and foreign investments through reinvestments, merger and acquisitions, and greenfield investments into the country. The ongoing development activities like upgrading of the port, road and rail infrastructures, and power plants, developing economic zones, etc., are going on in full swing. Bangladesh economy has overall proved to be rather resilient to the shocks brought about by COVID-19. Despite the global economic downturn. In early October this year, World Bank forecast that Bangladesh's gross domestic product would grow by 6.4% in the 21-22 fiscal year, revising it up by 1.3 percentage points from its previous forecast. The government, however, has set a 7.2% growth target for the current fiscal year. Bangladesh remains among the top resilient economies during the pandemic and is considered one of the prospective economies by the global business communities. Our economy was saved from a major blow because of our strong agricultural and rural base with capacity of adequate production of food and absorbing many unemployed from the urban areas. The government is focusing on agriculture as one of its prioritized sectors under a 2020-2023 midterm plan to bring the COVID-hit national economy back on track. The people engaged in the informal sectors were hit quite badly, and a new group of poor has emerged. This will certainly challenge our goal to reduce extreme poverty to under 5% in the next 5 years. Bangladesh is a very climate vulnerable country. We are chairing the Climate Vulnerable Forum of the world, about 42 countries in total. And at the COP26, Bangladesh was very vocal about mobilizing finance and to ensure the pledged $100 billion per year from the developed world to the developing world with an equal proportion for adaptation and mitigation. And Bangladesh wanted to ensure the access of the vulnerable nations to the advanced technology for both adaptation and mitigation. And we addressed the loss and damage issue very clearly at the COP26. As the CVF chair, Bangladesh's position at COP26 was lauded, and we played a strong role under the dynamic leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And the final outcome document has been named as the Glasgow Climate Pact, being influenced by the Climate Emergency Pact of the CVF. Before I conclude, I would like to state that the pandemic and the climate emergency are both global phenomena. Therefore, necessitates coordinated global response. I'm certain that the IOC, Indian Ocean Conference, would be able to find some effective measures on the recovery from the economic downturn and facing the climate emergency. of this region. Let the best practices positively impact our shared sustainable future in the Indian Ocean region. I would like to conclude with some words from Bangladesh's father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Our total commitment to peace is born of the realization that only an environment of peace would enable us to mobilize and concentrate all our energies and resources in combating the scourges of poverty, hunger, disease, illiteracy, and unemployment. I thank everyone for their attention. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, Bangladesh. May Bangladesh live long. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for your deep insight into what Bangladesh is doing for the three subjects that we have chosen. If you permit, we just got one question from Shri Ram Madhavji.
Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful presentation. You see, Bangladesh is the most densely populated country in the world, in the countries of more than 50 million population. The way you have managed the pandemic is fabulous. Actually, that is hats off to your leadership, Madam Sheikh Hasina's leadership. It's a story that we all would really love to hear, but maybe on some other occasion. But my simple question is, how did you manage with the 1 million Rohingya refugees living in your country? Have they been fully vaccinated? Are you extending vaccination facilities to them also? What is your government's program?
Thank you, Ram Madhavji. This is a very pertinent question. Yes, Bangladesh allowed the forcibly displaced Rohingya population entry, and they have been there for a few years now. The camps are also densely populated, and they are under the vaccination program. The way the government is providing free vaccination to the Bangladeshi citizens, the displaced Rohingya population are also being vaccinated. And it was very challenging when the pandemic began, because the camps are in a separate area and they are, like I said, densely populated, and infection in the camps would have been disastrous. There were medical facilities urgently made in the area, and with ICUs and medicine was made available, and they are under the vaccination program. It is Bangladesh began vaccination quite early, and had there not been disruption in supply, we would have been fully vaccinated by now, I think. So we are aiming to be fully vaccinated by February 2022. Thank you, if that answers your question.
Thank you, Madam. Just one more minute. May I now request Mrs. Sonu Trivedi ji, Director ICCR Seoul, to felicitate the Honorable Member of Parliament. We are not having any coffee break now. We're continuing into plenary 4. So please don't go away. Thank you.